Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. You drift off to sleep in your familiar bed, surrounded by the comfort of modern life. But when you wake, something is different. The air feels different. The sounds are different. The very world around you has transformed completely. Welcome to a journey through time, where we'll explore what it would truly be like to wake up in one of history's most fascinating civilizations, ancient Egypt. Not as a tourist with a guidebook, but as someone who must navigate this extraordinary world with nothing but your modern mind and the clothes on your back. Tonight we'll walk together along the banks of the mighty Nile, witness the construction of monuments that still stand today, and discover how people lived, loved, and thrived in a civilization that flourished for over 3,000 years. We'll explore the daily rhythms of life in ancient Memphis, the bustling markets of Thebes, and perhaps even glimpse the magnificent courts of the pharaohs. But before we begin, I'm curious, wherever you might be in the world right now, what time is it? Are you in New York, London, Tokyo, or perhaps even Cairo itself? It's fascinating to think this story might be reaching someone near the very sands where our ancient adventure unfolds. Wherever you are, you're about to embark on a journey back over 4,000 years, to when the pyramids were still under construction and the land of the pharaohs was at the height of its power. Are you ready? Then let us begin. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the kind of silence you're used to, the absence of traffic, air conditioning, or the distant hum of electricity. This is a deeper quiet, broken only by sounds that seem to come from another world entirely. The gentle lapping of water against mud brick walls, the soft whisper of wind through palm fronds, the distant call of a bird you don't recognize. You open your eyes slowly, expecting to see your familiar ceiling, but instead, you're greeted by something extraordinary. Above you stretches a canopy of reeds and palm leaves, woven together with such skill that barely a sliver of golden light penetrates through. The air is warm and dry, carrying scents that are both foreign and somehow comforting. The earthy smell of the Nile, the sweet fragrance of lotus blossoms, and the faint aroma of bread baking somewhere nearby. As consciousness fully returns, you realize you're lying on a simple but comfortable bed made of woven reeds and covered with linen, so fine it feels like silk against your skin. The room around you is small but beautifully crafted. The walls are made of mud brick, their surfaces smooth and cool to the touch. Painted murals dance across them, means of daily life along the Nile. Workers harvesting grain, fishermen casting nets, children playing by the water's edge. You sit up slowly, your modern mind struggling to process what you're seeing. This isn't a dream or a movie set. The textures are too real, the smells too vivid, the sounds too authentic. Somehow, impossibly, you've awakened in ancient Egypt. Through a small window opening, there's no glass, just a wooden shutter that's been pushed aside. You can see the most magnificent sight. The Nile River stretches before you, its waters reflecting the early morning sun like liquid gold. Papyrus plants sway gently in the breeze along the riverbank, their umbrella-like tops creating natural curtains of green. In the distance you can just make out the distinctive triangular silhouettes of pyramids, but they look different from the weathered monuments you might have seen in photographs. These appear newer, their limestone surfaces gleaming white in the morning light. You swing your legs over the side of the bed and notice that your clothes have changed. Instead of whatever you were wearing when you fell asleep in your modern world, you're now dressed in simple linen garments. A tunic that reaches to your knees, made of fabric so white it seems to glow in the dim light of the room. On your feet are leather sandals, their soles worn smooth but still sturdy. Standing up, you move to the window and breathe in the morning air. It's unlike anything you've ever experienced. The air is so clean and pure that each breath feels like a gift. There's no industrial pollution, no exhaust fumes, no chemical tang, just the natural sense of a world that exists in harmony with the rhythms of the great river. From your vantage point, you can see the beginning of daily life in this ancient world. People are already moving about, their white linen clothes bright against the golden landscape. A woman walks gracefully along the riverbank, a large clay pot balanced perfectly on her head. Children run and play near the water's edge, their laughter carrying on the gentle breeze. A man guides a pair of oxen pulling a wooden plow through a field of rich, dark soil, the fertile silt deposited by the Nile's annual flood. But as you watch this peaceful scene, a wave of uncertainty washes over you. You're no longer in your time, your world, your life. You have no identification, no money, no way to prove who you are or where you've come from. You don't speak the language, don't understand the customs, don't know the rules of this society. How will you survive? How will you find food, shelter, purpose in this ancient world? As if summoned by your thoughts, you hear footsteps approaching. Someone is coming up the path to your small dwelling. Your heart begins to race. This will be your first encounter with the people of ancient Egypt, and you have no idea what to expect. The footsteps stop outside your door, and there's a gentle knock, 3 soft taps that seem almost musical. You hesitate for a moment, then move to the door. It's made of wood, carved with simple geometric patterns, and it opens easily at your touch. Standing before you is a woman who appears to be in her 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. Her skin is bronzed by the sun, and her black hair is braided with small clay beads. She wears a simple white linen dress that reaches her ankles, and around her neck is a collar of blue and gold beads that catches the morning light beautifully. She speaks to you in a language that sounds like music, flowing melodic, with sounds that seem to rise and fall like the Nile itself. You don't understand the words, but her tone is warm and welcoming. She gestures to herself and says something that sounds like Nebette, and you realize she's telling you her name. You point to yourself and say your own name, and she repeats it back to you with a smile, though the pronunciation is slightly different, filtered through the sounds of her ancient tongue. She seems delighted by this exchange, and her smile grows wider. Nebette holds up a small basket she's carrying, and gestures toward the interior of your room. She's brought you something, mat food, perhaps, or supplies. You step aside to let her enter, and she moves with a grace that speaks of a lifetime of carrying burdens and walking long distances. Inside the basket are treasures that make your modern heart sing with gratitude. Fresh bread, still warm from the oven, with a golden crust and an aroma that makes your mouth water. Figs, dates, and grapes that look like they were picked just this morning. A small clay jug that when you lift it, sloshes with what you assume is water, or perhaps beer. You remember reading that beer was a staple drink in ancient Egypt, safer than water and nutritious. Nebette sets these offerings on a small wooden table, and then does something that touches your heart. She takes your hands in hers, looks into your eyes, and speaks again in her musical language. You can't understand the words, but you understand the meaning. She's welcoming you, accepting you, offering you kindness in a world where you are a complete stranger. She points to the food, and then to you, making eating gestures, and you realize she's telling you to eat. Your stomach, which you hadn't noticed until now, growls loudly, and both of you laugh, a sound that transcends language barriers and time itself. As you break the bread, it's dense and hearty, made from grain that grew in fields blessed by the Nile's floods. Nebette sits beside you and begins to speak again. Her voice is soothing, almost hypnotic, and even though you can't understand her words, you find yourself relaxing into the rhythm of her speech. She points out the window toward the river and says a word that sounds like happy, and somehow you understand that she's talking about the Nile, though you don't know if that's the name of the river, or perhaps the god associated with it. She makes flowing gestures with her hands, and her expression becomes almost reverent as she speaks. Then she points to the sky, and says another word, accompanying it with a gesture that suggests the sun's path across the heavens. Her face lights up with something that can only be described as joy, and you realize she's talking about Ra, the sun god, whose daily journey across the sky was central to Egyptian religious beliefs. As you eat together in companionable silence, you begin to notice details about your surroundings that you missed in your initial shock. The walls of your small room are decorated not just with painted scenes, but with actual objects that speak to the daily life of this time. A bronze mirror, polished to such a shine that it reflects your face clearly. Clay oil lamps, their wicks ready to be lit when darkness falls. A wooden chest, its lid carved with hieroglyphs, that dance before your eyes like a secret code waiting to be deciphered. Nebette notices your fascination with the hieroglyphs and moves to the chest. She runs her fingers over the carved symbols and speaks their meaning, though you can only guess at what she's saying. One symbol looks like a bird, another like a wavy line that might represent water, and a third that resembles a human figure with arms raised to the sky. She opens the chest and reveals more treasures, lengths of linen in various stages of weaving, from rough work cloth to fabric so fine it seems to float in the air. There are also tools whose purposes you can only guess at: bronze needles, wooden spindles, and what appears to be a small loom. As the morning progresses, Nebette becomes your guide to this new world. She shows you how to wash using a basin of water and a cloth, how to arrange your hair in a way that will stay neat in the heat, and how to wrap your linen garments to provide both comfort and protection from the sun. Through gestures and simple demonstrations, she teaches you the basics of survival in this ancient world. She shows you how to light an oil lamp, how to bank the coals in the small fire pit to keep them glowing for the next meal, and how to store food in clay vessels to keep it fresh. But perhaps most importantly, she teaches you about respect for the river, for the land, for the gods, and for the community. Every action she takes seems to be performed with a consciousness of its place in the larger order of things. When she pours water from the jug, she spills a small amount on the floor first, an offering. When she breaks bread, she looks toward the window and speaks a few words, perhaps a prayer of gratitude. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the heat begins to build. Nebette shows you how to adjust your clothing and positioning to stay cool. She demonstrates how to use a fan made of woven reeds, how to position yourself to catch the breeze from the river, and how to dampen your linen garments with water to create a cooling effect. Through the window, you can see that the world outside is coming fully alive. More people are moving about now, and you can hear the sounds of daily life beginning, voices calling to each other, the creak of wooden wheels on carts, the lowing of cattle, and the splash of oars in the water. Nebette gestures toward the door, and then to herself, and you understand that she needs to go, probably to tend to her own family and duties. But before she leaves, she does something that shows you the true nature of ancient Egyptian hospitality. She takes a small amulet from around her neck, a beautiful piece of blue-green faience shaped like a scarab beetle, and places it around your neck. As the amulet settles against your chest, you feel its weight, both physical and spiritual. You understand that this is more than just a gift. It's a talisman, a protection, a sign that you belong here now. The scarab, you remember from your modern knowledge, was a symbol of rebirth and renewal in ancient Egypt. How fitting that it should be your first gift in this new life. Nebette places her hand over your heart, over the amulet, and speaks a few words in her musical language. Then she touches her own heart, and repeats the same words. She's telling you something important, something about connection and belonging, about the bonds that exist between people regardless of where minds they come from. She gathers her basket and moves toward the door, but before she leaves, she turns back and points to the sun, now high in the sky. She holds up several fingers, and then points to herself, then to you, then to the door. You understand she'll be back when the sun is in a different position, later in the day. As she walks away, her figure growing smaller as she follows the path along the riverbank, you're left alone with your thoughts and this incredible new reality. You move back to the window and look out at the ancient world spread before you. The Nile is busier now, with boats of various sizes moving up and down the river. Some are simple reed boats with single fishermen casting nets. Others are larger vessels with square sails, carrying cargo or passengers. In the distance, you can see what appears to be a massive barge, its deck crowded with workers and stone blocks, perhaps materials for one of the great monuments being built in this era. The fields beyond the river are a patchwork of green and gold, with irrigation canals carrying the life-giving water to crops that will feed the cities and towns of the kingdom. You can see farmers working in the fields, their movements slow and deliberate in the growing heat of the day. And those pyramids on the horizon, they call to you with a mystery that your modern mind can barely comprehend. These aren't the tourist destinations you might have known, weathered by millennia, and surrounded by the urban sprawl of modern Cairo. These are living monuments, perhaps still under construction, part of a vibrant, active civilization that sees them not as ancient wonders but as contemporary achievements. As you stand there, taking in this incredible vista, you begin to understand that you're not just an observer of ancient Egypt, you're now a participant in it. You have a place in this world, a role to play, a life to live. The question is, what will that life be? The morning sun climbs higher, and with it comes the promise of adventure, discovery, and a deep dive into one of history's most fascinating civilizations. You are no longer a visitor to ancient Egypt, you are home. But as you settle into this realization, you notice something that makes your heart race with excitement. Approaching along the riverbank is a small procession of people, their white linen clothes bright against the landscape. They're moving with purpose, and they seem to be headed directly toward your dwelling. Your first day in ancient Egypt is about to become even more interesting. What will these new encounters bring? What role will you play in this ancient world? And how will you navigate the customs, beliefs, and daily rhythms of a civilization that existed thousands of years before your birth? The adventure is just beginning, and the ancient land of the pharaohs is ready to reveal its secrets to you, one moment at a time. The procession approaching your dwelling moves with the unhurried grace that seems to characterize all life along the Nile. As they draw closer, you can see that the group consists of about 6 people, men, women, and children, all dressed in the flowing white linen that appears to be the standard garment of this time and place. Their movements are synchronized, not by any conscious effort, but by the natural rhythm of people who have lived their entire lives in harmony with the river's flow. The leader of the group is an elderly man, whose bearing speaks of wisdom and authority. His hair is silver white, braided with small gold beads that catch the sunlight, and his beard is carefully groomed in the style you remember seeing in Egyptian art. Around his neck hangs a collar of intricate beadwork in blues, golds, and deep reds, clearly the work of a master craftsman. His eyes, though lined with age, are sharp and kind, and there's something in his expression that suggests he's been expecting to meet you. As the group reaches your dwelling, they stop at a respectful distance. The elderly man steps forward and places his right hand over his heart, then extends it toward you in what is clearly a gesture of greeting and peace. You mirror the gesture instinctively, and his weathered face breaks into a warm smile. He speaks in the same musical language that Nebette used, but his voice carries the authority of someone accustomed to being listened to. Though you can't understand his words, his tone is welcoming and reassuring. He gestures to himself and says what sounds like Keti, and you realize he's introducing himself. You respond with your own name, and the entire group repeats it back to you in unison, their voices creating a gentle chorus that seems to bless your presence in their world. It's a moment of such simple beauty that you feel tears prick your eyes. Keti then gestures to the others in turn, introducing each member of the group. There's a woman about your age named Seneb, whose eyes sparkle with curiosity, and whose smile suggests a quick wit. A young man called Amenemheb, whose muscular build and calloused hands mark him as someone who works with his body. 2 children, a boy and a girl who appear to be siblings, whose names sound like music when spoken, Kamwaset and Henatmehet. And finally, an older woman whose regal bearing and elaborate jewelry suggest she holds an important position in the community. Keti speaks again, this time making gestures that include you, the dwelling, and the river beyond. Gradually, through his patient pantomime, and the occasional word that sounds similar to something you might recognize, you begin to understand. They've come to welcome you to their community, to officially acknowledge your presence, and ensure that you understand your place in their world. The older woman steps forward, and produces a small clay tablet from a woven bag at her side. She shows it to you, and you can see that it's covered with hieroglyphs, those mysterious symbols that are simultaneously beautiful and incomprehensible to your modern eyes. She points to the tablet, then to you, then to the dwelling, and you realize that this might be some kind of official document, perhaps a record of your residence, or a form of identification in this ancient world. Seneb, the woman with the sparkling eyes, approaches and takes your hands in hers. She speaks softly, and though you can't understand her words, her meaning is clear. She's telling you that you're safe here, that you belong, that the community will take care of you. It's a moment of such profound kindness, that you feel the last of your anxiety about your situation begin to melt away. Young Amenemheb steps forward and gestures toward the fields beyond the river. He flexes his muscles and mimics the motions of farming, plowing, planting, harvesting. He points to you and raises his eyebrows in a question, and you realize he's asking if you're able to work, if you can contribute to the community's survival. You nod eagerly, and his grin shows that he's pleased with your response. The children, Kamwaset and Henapmehet, are less formal in their approach. They've been watching you with the open curiosity of youth, and now they step forward to examine your clothing, your skin, your hair, everything about you that marks you as different from anyone they've ever seen. Their attention is not rude or intrusive, but rather filled with wonder, as if you're a fascinating puzzle they're eager to solve. Henapmehet reaches out tentatively to touch your hair, and when you nod permission, she runs her small fingers through it with evident delight. She chatters excitedly to her brother, who joins in the examination. They seem particularly fascinated by any differences in your appearance from their own, and their innocent curiosity is both heartwarming and humbling. Keti watches this interaction with obvious approval, and then he begins to speak again, this time in what appears to be a more formal manner. He gestures toward the sun, now approaching its zenith, and then sweeps his arm to encompass the entire community spread out along the riverbank. He's explaining something important, perhaps the daily schedule, the community's customs, or your role in their world. Through his patient gestures and simple demonstrations, a picture begins to emerge of life in this ancient Egyptian village. The day is structured around the sun's journey across the sky, with different activities appropriate to different times. The early morning is for personal care and preparation. The late morning for the lighter work that can be done before the heat becomes too intense. The midday hours are for rest and reflection, sheltered from the sun's harsh rays. The afternoon is for the heavier work marked farming, construction, crafts when the sun has passed its peak, but there's still plenty of light. The evening is for community gathering, sharing meals, and the social bonds that hold the village together. As Keti explains this rhythm, you begin to understand how perfectly adapted this lifestyle is to the environment. Nothing is rushed, nothing is forced. Instead, human activity flows in harmony with natural cycles, just as the Nile itself flows according to the ancient rhythms of flood and drought, plenty and scarcity. The older woman, whose name you learn is Merit, produces another object from her bag. This time it's a small scroll of papyrus, covered with hieroglyphs drawn in black ink. She unrolls it carefully, revealing what appears to be a map of the local area. She points to various locations on the map, and then to corresponding points in the landscape around you, helping you understand the geography of your new world. You can see the village itself represented as a cluster of small rectangles along the river's edge. The fields are shown as neat geometric patterns, crossed by the irrigation channels that bring the Nile's life-giving water to the crops. In the distance, the pyramids are depicted as perfect triangles, but what surprises you is that the map shows several of them in what appears to be different stages of completion. Merit points to one of the pyramids on the map, and then to the corresponding structure on the horizon. She speaks a few words, and makes gestures that suggest ongoing work, lifting, building, creating. You realize with a thrill of excitement that you're witnessing the construction of one of history's greatest monuments, not as a completed tourist attraction, but as a living, breathing project, involving thousands of workers and representing the pinnacle of ancient engineering. Seneb notices your fascination with the map, and moves closer to point out other features. She indicates what appears to be a larger settlement further up the river, perhaps a town or city where markets are held, and officials conduct business. She makes gestures that suggest travel and trade, and you understand that this larger settlement is where the community goes to exchange goods and conduct important affairs. She also points to areas marked with symbols that look like plants and animals, explaining what you assume are hunting grounds, fishing areas,
and places where useful materials can be gathered. The map reveals a world that is both organized and wild, where human settlement exists in careful balance with the natural environment. Amenemheb, eager to be helpful, demonstrates some of the tools and techniques that will be part of your daily life. He shows you how to use a simple wooden plow, how to guide oxen, and how to judge the quality of soil by its color and texture. His movements are efficient and practiced, speaking of years of experience working the land that the Nile has blessed with its fertile silt. He also demonstrates fishing techniques, showing you how to cast a net from the riverbank, how to read the signs that indicate where fish are likely to be found, and how to construct simple traps from reeds and mud. His enthusiasm for sharing this knowledge is infectious, and you find yourself eager to learn these ancient skills. The children, meanwhile, have appointed themselves as your guides to the more playful aspects of life in ancient Egypt. Kamerset shows you a game played with small stones and a board marked in the sand, while Henupmehet demonstrates how to make dolls from strips of linen and dried reeds. Their games are simple but engaging, and you realize that play, like work, follows the natural rhythms of life along the Nile. As the sun reaches its peak, Keti makes gestures that suggest it's time for the midday rest. The entire group begins to move toward the shade of a large palm tree near the riverbank, and you follow, understanding that this is part of the daily rhythm that governs life in this ancient world. Under the palm tree, the group settles into a comfortable circle. Merit produces a large water jar from somewhere. You hadn't noticed her carrying it, but it appears as if by magic. She pours water into small clay cups and passes them around, and you taste the sweetest, clearest water you've ever encountered. It's cool and refreshing, with a mineral taste that speaks of its journey through the earth to reach the great river. As you sit in the shade, listening to the gentle conversation flowing around you in their musical language, you begin to notice the smaller details of life in this ancient world. The way the light filters through the palm fronds, creating patterns that shift and dance with the breeze. The sound of birds calling from the papyrus thickets along the riverbank. The distant voices of other villagers going about their daily tasks. Seneb produces a small basket filled with dates and figs, and these are shared around the circle with the same casual generosity that seems to characterize all interactions in this community. The dates are unlike any you've tasted, intensely sweet, with a richness that seems to contain the essence of the desert sun. The figs are soft and succulent, their seeds providing a pleasant texture contrast to the smooth flesh. As you eat, you become aware of the conversations flowing around you. Though you can't understand the words, you can hear the rhythms of discussion, question and answer, storytelling, and gentle laughter. These are the sounds of a community that has learned to live together in harmony, where conflicts are resolved through patient discussion, and where everyone's voice is heard. Keti notices your attention to the conversations and begins to speak directly to you, his voice taking on the cadence of a teacher. He points to objects around you, the water jar, the date palm, the river, the sun, and speaks their names in his language. He repeats each word several times, encouraging you to repeat them back to him, and celebrates each of your attempts with a warm smile. Your first Egyptian language lesson has begun, and you find yourself surprisingly apt at picking up the sounds and rhythms of this ancient tongue. The words seem to flow naturally, as if your modern mind has been waiting for this connection to the past. Mu for water, Bianir for date palm, Itira for river, Raya for sun. Each word feels like a small key, unlocking another part of this ancient world. The other members of the group join in your language lesson, offering words for everything around you. Sab for star, Eb for heart, Sambe for health, Nemba for good, or beautiful. They teach you simple phrases too, greetings, expressions of thanks, ways to ask for help or offer assistance. Each new word or phrase is met with enthusiastic approval from your teachers, and you begin to feel the first stirrings of real communication. As the afternoon begins and the sun starts its descent toward the western horizon, the group begins to prepare for the next phase of the day. Keti stands and stretches, his movements slow and dignified, and the others follow his lead. It's time to return to the active work of the day. But first there's something else they want to show you. Merit approaches you with another object from her seemingly bottomless bag. This time, it's a small bronze mirror, polished to such a shine that it reflects your face with perfect clarity. She holds it up for you to see yourself, and you're startled by your own reflection. The clean desert air and the natural light have given your skin a healthy glow, and your eyes seem brighter and more alert than you remember them being in your modern life.
She speaks a few words and gestures from the mirror to you, to the group, and you understand that she's talking about appearance, about how you fit into their world. Seneb steps forward and begins to adjust your clothing, showing you how to wrap your linen garments in a way that's both practical and elegant. She arranges the folds to provide better protection from the sun, while allowing for freedom of movement. Henep Mahait, not to be outdone, produces a small clay pot filled with what appears to be Kohl's the black eye makeup that was so characteristic of ancient Egyptian culture. With gestures and smiles, she asks permission to apply it to your eyes, and when you nod, she does so with the skill of someone who has been doing this since childhood. The transformation is remarkable. The Kohl's not only enhances your appearance, but also serves a practical purpose, reducing glare from the sun and protecting your eyes from dust and insects. When Merit holds up the mirror again, you see someone who looks like they truly belong in this ancient world. The group expresses their approval with warm smiles and gentle words, and you realize that this makeover was more than just about appearance. It was about acceptance, about helping you find your place in their community, about ensuring that you not only survive in this ancient world, but thrive in it. As the afternoon light begins to slant toward evening, Keti gestures toward the fields and the river, indicating that it's time for the day's work to begin in earnest. The group begins to disperse, each person heading toward their particular responsibilities. But before they go, each one approaches you with a gesture of farewell and friendship. Amenemheb clasps your shoulder and speaks a few words that sound like a promise, perhaps that he'll return to continue teaching you the skills you'll need. Merit places her hand over your heart, over the scarab amulet that Nebette gave you, and speaks words that sound like a blessing. The children wave enthusiastically, their faces bright with the joy of having made a new friend. Seneb is the last to leave, and she does something that touches your heart deeply. She takes your hands in hers, and speaks a few words in Egyptian, then repeats them in gestures that help you understand their meaning. She's telling you that you're not alone, that you have friends here, that you belong. As the group walks away, following the path along the riverbank toward their various destinations, you're left with a profound sense of gratitude and belonging. In just a few hours, you've gone from being a confused stranger in an impossible situation to being a welcomed member of an ancient community. The sun is now well past its zenith, and the heat of the day is beginning to moderate. The light has taken on that golden quality that photographers call the golden hour, and everything around you seems to glow with warm honey-colored light. The Nile reflects the sky like a mirror, and the palm trees cast long shadows that provide cool refuges from the sun. You stand in the doorway of your dwelling, looking out at this ancient world that has become your home, and you realize that your adventure is just beginning. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new discoveries, new friendships. You'll learn more of the language, more of the customs, more of the skills that will help you not just survive but flourish in this remarkable time and place. But for now, as the day settles into its peaceful rhythm and the village prepares for the evening's activities, you have a moment to reflect on the incredible journey that has brought you here. From the confusion of your first awakening to the warm welcome of your new community, you've experienced something that few people could ever imagine. The chance to truly live in one of history's most fascinating civilizations. The ancient world of Egypt has opened its arms to you, and you've stepped through a doorway that can never be closed again. You are home. As the golden afternoon light begins to deepen toward evening, you find yourself drawn to explore more of your immediate surroundings. The dwelling that has become your home sits at the edge of what you're beginning to understand is a carefully planned community, where each building has been positioned to take advantage of the prevailing breezes from the river, while providing privacy and comfort for its inhabitants. Walking along the narrow paths that wind between the houses, you notice how perfectly adapted everything is to life along the Nile. The buildings are all constructed of mud brick, their thick walls providing insulation against both the heat of the day and the cool of the night. The roofs are flat, designed to collect and channel the precious rainwater when the rare storms come, and many are topped with small gardens where herbs and vegetables grow in carefully tended plots. The architecture speaks of thousands of years of refinement, of countless generations learning to live in harmony with this harsh but generous environment. Every detail has a purpose. The small windows that let in light while keeping out the heat, the courtyards that create cooling breezes, the overhanging roofs that provide shade during the hottest parts of the day. You run your fingers along the smooth mud brick walls, feeling the texture of straw and clay that has been mixed by hand, shaped by human touch, and dried under the same sun that now warms your face. The pathways themselves tell a story of community life. They're not straight lines but gentle curves that follow the natural contours of the land and encourage chance encounters between neighbors. Small alcoves built into walls provide resting spots for the elderly, while wider areas accommodate the gathering of children at play. You notice that certain corners have been deliberately designed to catch and channel breezes, creating natural air conditioning that makes even the hottest days bearable. As you walk, you begin to encounter other members of the community going about their evening activities. A group of women sits in the shade of a large sycamore tree, their hands busy with spinning and weaving. The steady rhythm of their work creates a gentle soundtrack to their conversation, and they look up with friendly smiles as you pass, calling out greetings in their musical language. One of the younger women, who you remember from the morning's welcoming committee, holds up her work to show you a beautiful piece of linen with intricate patterns woven into the fabric. You pause to watch more closely, fascinated by the ancient techniques being employed. The women use simple but effective drop spindles to create thread from flax fibers, their fingers working with practiced skill to maintain consistent tension and thickness. The spindles themselves are works of art, carefully balanced wooden shafts topped with ceramic whorls decorated with protective symbols and geometric patterns. Each woman's spindle is unique, and you realize that these tools are not just functional but deeply personal, often passed down through generations of mothers and daughters. The loom where the weaving takes place is a marvel of ancient engineering. Constructed from sturdy wooden beams and held together with rope and leather bindings, it's designed to be both portable and durable. The warp threads are stretched tight between the upper and lower beams, and the weft threads are woven through them with wooden shuttles that click and clack in a rhythm that's almost musical. The patterns emerging from their work are complex and beautiful, geometric designs that seem to capture the essence of the Nile's flow, the movement of birds in flight, the endless cycle of seasons. One of the older women, whose hair is streaked with silver and whose hands bear the calluses of decades of skilled work, notices your interest and gestures for you to come closer. She speaks slowly and clearly, pointing to different parts of the loom and the weaving process. Though you can't understand her words, her meaning is clear. She's teaching you, sharing the knowledge that has been passed down through countless generations. She takes your hand and guides it to feel the different textures of the threads, helping you understand how the quality of flax varies depending on when it was harvested and how it was processed. Some threads are fine and smooth, perfect for the delicate undergarments worn next to the skin. Others are coarser and stronger, ideal for outer garments that must withstand the rigors of daily work. Still others are somewhere in between, suitable for the everyday tunics and dresses that make up the bulk of most people's wardrobes. The woman whose name you learn is Hathor Imaket, after the goddess of love and beauty, begins to explain the significance of the patterns they're weaving. Through gestures and simple drawings scratched in the dust, she shows you how certain designs are meant to invoke divine protection, while others tell stories of family lineage or commemorate important events. The geometric patterns aren't just decorative, they're a form of writing, a way of preserving and transmitting cultural knowledge through the very fabric of daily life. As the lesson continues, other women join the group, each adding their own knowledge and perspective. You learn about the different types of dyes used to color the threads, some made from plants that grow along the river, others from minerals found in the desert, and still others from insects and sea creatures obtained through trade with distant lands. The colors have meaning too: blue for the life-giving Nile, red for the power of the sun, white for purity and truth, green for the fertility of the land during flood season. An elderly man tends a small garden plot not far from the weaving circle, his movements careful and deliberate as he directs water from a clay irrigation channel to nourish his plants. He pauses in his work to acknowledge your presence with a respectful nod, and you see that his plants are thriving, green and lush in defiance of the desert that lies just beyond the river's reach. The old man, whose name you learn is Camwaset, has been tending gardens for more than 50 years, and his knowledge of plants and their needs is encyclopedic. Approaching his garden, you're amazed by the variety of plants growing in such a small space. There are onions, leeks and garlic, the foundation of Egyptian cuisine and medicine. Rows of lettuce and other leafy greens provide fresh vegetables for the daily meals. Herbs like coriander, dill and fenugreek grow in neat patches, their aromatic leaves ready for harvest. A small section is devoted to medicinal plants, aloe for treating burns, mint for digestive troubles, and chamomile for calming nerves and promoting sleep. Camwaset's irrigation system is a marvel of practical engineering. Clay pipes and channels direct water from the main canal to each section of the garden, with small wooden gates that can be opened or closed to control the flow. The system is designed to use gravity and the natural slope of the land to distribute water evenly, ensuring that each plant receives exactly the amount it needs. Excess water is collected in small reservoirs, where it can be stored for later use or allowed to seep slowly back into the soil. The old gardener shows you how to read the signs that tell him when plants need water, when they're ready for harvest, and when they're suffering from pests or diseases. He demonstrates how to prepare natural fertilizers from composted plant matter and animal waste, how to create pest-repelling sprays from aromatic herbs, and how to select and save seeds for the next growing season. His knowledge is practical and deep, accumulated over decades of careful observation and experimentation. What strikes you most about Camwaset's approach to gardening is how integrated it is with the natural rhythms of the Nile and the seasons. He doesn't fight against nature, but works with it, timing his planting and harvesting to take advantage of the annual flood cycle. During the flood season, when the fields are underwater, he focuses on plants that can grow in the elevated garden plots around the houses. During the dry season, he concentrates on crops that can withstand the heat and require minimal water. The old man's garden is not just a source of food, but a living laboratory, where he experiments with new varieties of plants and new growing techniques. He shows you a section where he's trying to grow plants from seeds obtained from traders who travel to distant lands, exotic spices and medicinal herbs that might thrive in the Egyptian climate. Some experiments fail, but others succeed, adding new resources to the community's arsenal of useful plants. Children play in the dusty spaces between houses, their games seemingly unchanged by the passage of millennia. They chase each other with sticks and hoops, play elaborate games of make-believe, and build miniature houses from mud and straw. Their laughter carries on the evening air, a sound so universal and timeless that it brings a smile to your face. Watching them more closely, you begin to understand that their play is not just entertainment but preparation for adult life. A group of young girls has created an elaborate domestic scene using broken pottery and scraps of cloth. They're practicing the skills they'll need as women: cooking, cleaning, caring for children, and managing households. Their play is remarkably sophisticated, with detailed role-playing that encompasses everything from negotiating with merchants to mediating disputes between family members. The older girls teach the younger ones, passing down knowledge and skills through the natural medium of play. Meanwhile, the boys are engaged in games that prepare them for their future roles as farmers, craftsmen and warriors. They practice using slings to throw stones at targets, developing the accuracy and arm strength that will serve them well in protecting crops from birds and other pests. They build model boats from papyrus and race them in the irrigation channels, learning about buoyancy, balance and the behavior of water. They wrestle and run races, building the physical strength and endurance that will be essential for the hard work of adult life. One game that particularly captures your attention involves a group of children working together to build a scale model of their village using mud, straw and small stones. The level of detail is remarkable. They've recreated not just the houses and streets but the gardens, the shrine, and even the irrigation systems. Watching them work, you realize that this is how children learn about their community's layout and organization, how they develop spatial reasoning skills, and how they begin to understand the complex relationships between different parts of their environment. The children's games also serve as a form of cultural transmission. They sing traditional songs while they play,
songs that contain historical information, moral lessons and practical knowledge. They act out stories from mythology and legend, embodying the values and beliefs of their culture. They practice the social skills they'll need as adults: cooperation, negotiation, leadership, and conflict resolution. What strikes you most about the children's play is how naturally it integrates learning with enjoyment. There's no artificial separation between education and entertainment, no forced studying of abstract concepts divorced from real-world application. Instead, the children are constantly learning through hands-on experience, through trial and error, through observation and imitation of the adults around them. You come to a small open area that appears to serve as the community's central gathering place. Here, under the spreading branches of several date palms, wooden benches and low tables are arranged in a way that encourages conversation and social interaction. A few people are already gathering as the day's work winds down, and you can see that this is where the community comes together to share the events of the day. The date palms themselves are magnificent specimens, their trunks thick and sturdy, their fronds creating a canopy of green that provides blessed shade from the afternoon sun. The palms are clearly ancient, probably planted by previous generations and carefully tended over the decades. They're not just decorative, but highly functional. Their dates provide food, their fronds can be woven into baskets and mats, their trunks yield fiber for rope, and their sap can be fermented into a mildly alcoholic beverage. The arrangement of furniture in the gathering place reflects the social structure of the community. The most comfortable seats, cushioned with woven mats and positioned to catch the best breezes, are clearly reserved for the elderly and the most respected members of the community. Other seating is arranged in concentric circles, allowing for both intimate conversations and larger group discussions. Small tables and stands hold oil lamps, water jars, and other conveniences that make the space comfortable for extended gatherings. At the center of this gathering place stands something that takes your breath away: a small shrine dedicated to the gods of ancient Egypt. It's a simple structure, built of the same mud brick as the houses, but decorated with paintings and carvings that speak of deep religious devotion. The walls are covered with hieroglyphs and images of the gods: Ra with his falcon head and solar disk, Isis with her throne headdress, Horus with his sharp eyes and protective presence. The shrine is more elaborate than you first realized. The main structure is surrounded by smaller subsidiary shrines dedicated to local gods and protective spirits. Each one is beautifully decorated with scenes that tell stories from Egyptian mythology. One shows the daily journey of the sun god Ra across the sky, with detailed depictions of his solar bark and the challenges he faces in the underworld during the night. Another depicts the annual flooding of the Nile, personified as the god Hapi, bringing life and fertility to the land. The hieroglyphs covering the walls are not just decorative but functional. They contain prayers, hymns, and magical formulas, designed to protect the community and ensure the favor of the gods. Some of the inscriptions are clearly ancient, carved deep into the stone and worn smooth by centuries of weather and touch. Others are more recent, painted in bright colors that still retain their original vibrancy. Before the shrine, offerings have been left: bread, beer, flowers, and small clay figurines. The scent of incense hangs in the air, and you realize that this is a living, breathing center of worship, not a museum piece, but an active part of the community's daily spiritual life. The offerings are fresh, replaced daily by community members who understand that maintaining the favor of the gods requires constant attention and devotion. The bread offerings are particularly beautiful, small loaves shaped into symbolic forms that represent different aspects of divine power. Some are shaped like the Ankh, the symbol of life. Others resemble the jade pillar, representing stability and endurance. Still others are formed into the shape of the scarab beetle, symbol of transformation and rebirth. Each loaf is a work of art as well as a religious offering, carefully crafted to please both the gods and the human eye. The beer offerings are contained in beautiful ceramic vessels, each one unique and decorated with religious symbols. The beer itself is not like the mass-produced beverages of your time, but a thick, nutritious drink that serves as both food and beverage. It's made from barley and flavored with dates, herbs and spices, creating a complex taste that's both refreshing and nourishing. The brewing process itself is considered sacred, and the women who make the beer are highly respected members of the community. The flowers offered at the shrine are mostly lotus blossoms, the sacred flower of ancient Egypt. The lotus is a powerful symbol of rebirth and renewal, representing the daily resurrection of the sun and the annual renewal of life that comes with the Nile's flood. The flowers are arranged in intricate patterns that have symbolic meaning, creating mandala-like designs that represent the cosmic order and the harmony between the human and divine worlds. The small clay figurines are perhaps the most personal of the offerings. Many are clearly made by children, their crude but heartfelt attempts to create images of the gods they wish to honor. Others are more sophisticated, crafted by skilled artisans who have captured the essence of divine power in clay. Each figurine represents a prayer, a wish, or a request for divine intervention in the affairs of daily life. As you stand before the shrine, trying to take in the beauty and meaning of what you're seeing, you feel a gentle touch on your shoulder. Turning, you find Nebette, the kind woman who welcomed you this morning. She smiles warmly and gestures toward the shrine, then places her hands together in what is clearly a gesture of prayer or reverence. She speaks softly, her voice taking on the cadence of ritual, and though you can't understand her words, you can feel the depth of her faith. She's explaining something about the gods, about their role in daily life, about the importance of maintaining the proper relationship between the human and divine worlds. Her words flow like music, rising and falling in patterns that seem to echo the rhythm of the Nile itself. Nebette's explanation is accompanied by graceful gestures that help convey meaning even across the language barrier. She points to the sun, then to the image of Ra and the shrine, helping you understand the connection between the physical sun and the divine power it represents. She touches her heart, then gestures toward the shrine, showing you that worship is not just external ritual but an internal state of devotion and reverence. She shows you how to approach the shrine properly, how to purify your hands in the small basin of water that stands beside it, how to bow your head respectfully before the images of the gods. These are not empty gestures, but meaningful actions that demonstrate your recognition of the divine presence and your desire to show appropriate respect. Nebette produces a small clay lamp from the folds of her dress and lights it from a larger lamp that burns continuously before the shrine. She places this offering among the others, and the small flame adds its light to the growing collection of devotional candles. The act of lighting the lamp is clearly significant. It represents the bringing of light into darkness, the kindling of divine presence in the human world, the eternal flame of devotion that burns in the hearts of the faithful. She encourages you to make your own offering, and though you have nothing material to give, you close your eyes and offer a silent prayer of gratitude for the kindness you've received. The prayer feels natural and right, a spontaneous expression of the genuine thankfulness that fills your heart. When you open your eyes, you see that Nebette is smiling, and you realize that she understands the sincerity of your gesture even without words. The moment of prayer is interrupted by the arrival of more community members, and you realize that the evening prayers are about to begin. This is clearly a daily ritual, as natural and essential as breathing, and you feel privileged to witness it. The people who gather are not just going through the motions of religious observance, but are genuinely connecting with the divine, finding meaning and purpose in their daily lives through this ancient practice. When you open your eyes, you find that a small crowd has gathered around the shrine. The evening prayers are beginning, and you're witnessing one of the most sacred rituals of ancient Egyptian life. The community comes together as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, marking the daily death and rebirth of Ra, the sun god. The gathering is informal but reverent. People arrange themselves in a loose semicircle around the shrine, with the elderly and most respected members of the community taking positions closer to the front. Children stand with their parents, learning through observation and participation the proper way to approach the gods. The atmosphere is one of quiet anticipation, of preparation for a sacred encounter. Keti, the elderly man who led this morning's welcoming committee, steps forward to lead the prayers. His voice rises and falls in ancient chants, and the assembled community responds in unison. Though you can't understand the words, you can feel the power of the ritual, the way it binds the community together and connects them to the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. The prayers are not monotonous recitations, but dynamic, living expressions of faith that vary with the seasons, the needs of the community, and the phases of the moon. Tonight's prayers seem to focus on gratitude for the day's blessings, protection during the night's dangers, and hope for tomorrow's opportunities. The rhythm of the chants matches the rhythm of the Nile, flowing like water over stones, constant yet ever-changing. Keti's voice is strong, despite his age, trained over decades of leading community prayers. He knows the ancient words by heart, has internalized their meaning so deeply that they flow from him like a natural spring. His gestures are precise and meaningful, each movement corresponding to specific aspects of the prayer. When he speaks of the sun god's journey across the sky, his arms trace the arc of the solar path. When he mentions the life-giving flood, his hands flow like water. The community's responses are equally heartfelt. Men, women and children join their voices in harmony, creating a sound that seems to rise toward the heavens like incense. The responses are not just words but physical expressions of devotion, bowing, raising hands toward the sky, touching hearts and foreheads in gestures of reverence and submission. As the prayers conclude and the sun touches the horizon, the gathering transforms into something more social and relaxed. People settle onto the benches and low stools, and conversations begin to flow. Children run between the adults, and the women you saw weaving earlier arrive with baskets of food to share. The transition from sacred to secular is seamless, natural and beautiful. There's no sense that the religious portion of the evening is separate from the social portion. Instead, the entire gathering is infused with a sense of the sacred, a recognition that community life itself is a form of worship, a way of honoring the gods who have provided for human needs. This is the evening meal, you realize, but it's unlike any dinner you've ever experienced. Rather than separate families eating in isolation, the entire community comes together to share food, stories, and fellowship. Dishes are passed from hand to hand, and everyone contributes something to the communal feast. The organization of the meal is complex but appears effortless. Each family has brought dishes that complement those of others, creating a balanced and varied feast. There are no written menus or formal coordination. Instead, the meal is organized through tradition, intuition, and mutual understanding. Women who are skilled at baking bread bring loaves, while those who excel at preparing vegetables contribute salads and cooked dishes. Fishermen share their catch, while farmers offer fruits and grains. The food is simple but delicious: bread that's still warm from the ovens, vegetables from the gardens, fish from the river, and fruits from the palm trees. Everything tastes of the sun and the river, of the rich soil and the clean air. There are no artificial flavors or preservatives, no industrial processes, just food, as it was meant to be, fresh and nourishing, and prepared with love. The bread is particularly remarkable: dense, flavorful loaves made from emmer wheat that's been ground by hand and baked in clay ovens. Some loaves are plain, perfect for soaking up the juices of other dishes. Others are flavored with herbs, seeds, or dried fruits, creating complex tastes that complement the other foods. The bread is not just sustenance but a form of art, with some loaves shaped into decorative forms that are almost too beautiful to eat. The vegetables are a revelation, intensely flavored from growing in the rich alluvial soil of the Nile Delta, harvested at the peak of ripeness, and prepared with techniques that enhance rather than mask their natural tastes. Onions and leeks are roasted until they're sweet and caramelized. Lettuce and other greens are dressed with oil and vinegar made from dates. Root vegetables are steamed until tender and seasoned with herbs and spices. The fish is incredibly fresh, caught that very day from the Nile, and prepared in a variety of ways. Some is grilled over charcoal, giving it a smoky flavor that pairs perfectly with the simple seasoning of salt and herbs. Other fish is prepared in stews with vegetables and grains, creating hearty dishes that provide complete nutrition. Still other fish is dried and salted, creating a concentrated protein that can be stored for times when fresh fish is not available.
The knowledge of which foods were safe to eat in unfamiliar environments, how to prepare tropical fruits and vegetables, and how to avoid the numerous tropical diseases that could be fatal would require extensive experience and careful observation. The ability to adapt to different climates and environments would be crucial for pirates who operated throughout the Caribbean and beyond. The boat handling skills would be essential for the small craft operations that were crucial to pirate success. Pirates frequently used smaller boats for reconnaissance, for landing parties, and for pursuing prizes in shallow waters where larger ships couldn't follow. The ability to handle these small craft in rough seas, to beach them safely, and to launch them quickly when needed would be essential skills. The rowing techniques required for moving these boats efficiently would be far more complex than modern recreational rowing. Pirates needed to coordinate their efforts with other rowers, to maintain course in rough seas, and to row for hours at a time without becoming exhausted. The ability to use oars as weapons when necessary, and to row silently when stealth was required, would be additional skills that few modern people possess. The fishing and foraging skills would be essential for supplementing the limited food supplies available aboard pirate ships. Pirates needed to know how to catch fish using primitive equipment, how to identify edible plants and fruits, and how to hunt small game when opportunities arose. The ability to preserve caught fish and gathered food for future consumption would be crucial for maintaining nutrition during long voyages. The knowledge of which fishing techniques worked best in different conditions, how to make and repair fishing nets and hooks, and how to identify the best fishing locations would require extensive experience and understanding of marine ecosystems. The ability to supplement ships' rations with fresh caught fish could mean the difference between health and malnutrition during extended voyages. The astronomical knowledge required for navigation would be far beyond what most modern people possess. Pirates needed to know the positions and movements of stars, planets, and other celestial bodies, and how to use this knowledge to determine their location and course. The ability to use a sextant, to calculate longitude and latitude, and to chart courses using celestial navigation would require mathematical skills and astronomical knowledge that few modern people have. The understanding of how the Earth's rotation affects navigation, how to account for the precession of the equinoxes, and how to use different stars for navigation at different times of year would be essential for successful long-distance voyages. The ability to navigate in cloudy conditions using dead reckoning and other techniques would be crucial when celestial navigation was impossible. The linguistic skills required for successful piracy would be extensive. Pirates operated in a multilingual world where Spanish, French, English, Dutch, and Portuguese were all common languages of commerce and diplomacy. The ability to speak multiple languages, to understand different dialects and accents, and to communicate effectively with people from diverse cultural backgrounds would be essential for successful operations. The knowledge of maritime terminology in different languages, the ability to negotiate in foreign languages, and the understanding of cultural nuances that could affect business dealings would be crucial for pirates who operated throughout the Caribbean and beyond. The ability to blend in with local populations by speaking their language and understanding their customs would be essential for gathering intelligence and avoiding detection. The accounting and mathematical skills required for managing pirate finances would be more complex than might be expected. Pirates needed to calculate shares of booty, to manage group finances, and to keep track of expenses and income over extended periods. The ability to perform complex calculations in your head, to keep accurate records without formal bookkeeping systems, and to fairly distribute wealth among crew members would be essential for maintaining crew morale and preventing conflicts. The understanding of compound interest, currency exchange rates, and the relative values of different forms of wealth would be crucial for making sound financial decisions. The ability to assess the long-term value of different investments and to plan for future expenses would be essential for successful pirate operations. The blacksmithing and metalworking skills would be essential for maintaining weapons and tools in good condition. Pirates needed to know how to sharpen blades, to repair damaged firearms, and to fashion new metal components from available materials. The ability to work with iron and steel using primitive tools would be essential for keeping weapons and equipment in working order. The knowledge of how to forge new weapons and tools when necessary, how to repair damaged metal fittings, and how to work with different types of metal alloys would be crucial for maintaining operational capability. The ability to set up and operate a forge aboard ship, or to locate and use smithing facilities in various ports, would be essential skills for any pirate crew. The leather working skills would be necessary for maintaining and repairing the various leather goods that were essential for pirate operations. From weapon sheaths to water containers, to protective clothing, leather goods required regular maintenance and occasional replacement. The ability to work with leather, to repair damaged items, and to fashion new leather goods from available materials would be essential skills. The knowledge of how to tan hides, how to cut and sew leather, and how to create waterproof leather goods would be crucial for maintaining essential equipment. The ability to repair shoes, belts, and other leather items would be essential for personal comfort and operational effectiveness. The glass making and repair skills would be valuable for maintaining the various glass items that were essential for navigation and daily life. From compass lenses to drinking vessels to window panes, glass items were fragile and difficult to replace. The ability to repair broken glass items, to cut new glass when necessary, and to create simple glass objects would be valuable skills for any pirate crew. The understanding of how to work with different types of glass, how to use primitive glass cutting tools, and how to create watertight seals around glass installations would be essential for maintaining navigational equipment and improving living conditions aboard ship. The textile and clothing repair skills would be essential for maintaining the limited clothing and fabric goods available to pirates. The ability to sew, to patch damaged clothing, and to create new garments from available materials would be crucial for personal comfort and protection from the elements. The knowledge of how to waterproof fabrics, how to repair torn sails, and how to create protective clothing from canvas and other materials would be essential skills. The understanding of different types of fibers and fabrics, the ability to spin thread and weave cloth when necessary, and the knowledge of how to dye fabrics using natural materials would be valuable skills for improving quality of life aboard ship. The ability to create warm clothing for cold climates and light, protective clothing for tropical conditions would be essential for operational effectiveness. The pottery and ceramic skills would be valuable for creating and maintaining the various ceramic items used aboard ship. From water jugs to cooking pots to storage containers, ceramic items were fragile and difficult to replace. The ability to repair broken pottery, to create new ceramic items from available clay, and to fire ceramics using improvised kilns would be valuable skills. The knowledge of how to work with different types of clay, how to create glazes from natural materials, and how to fire ceramics at the proper temperatures would be essential for maintaining essential equipment. The ability to create waterproof storage containers and cooking vessels would be crucial for food preservation and preparation. The beekeeping and honey production skills would be valuable for pirates who operated from established bases. Honey was a valuable commodity that could be used for food preservation, medicine, and trade. The ability to maintain beehives, to harvest honey safely, and to use honey for various purposes would be valuable skills for any pirate community. The understanding of bee behavior, the ability to construct and maintain beehives, and the knowledge of how to process honey and beeswax would be essential for successful honey production. The ability to use honey for wound care, food preservation, and brewing would be valuable skills for improving quality of life and health. The distillation and brewing skills would be essential for producing the alcoholic beverages that were crucial for pirate morale and trade. The ability to distill rum from sugarcane, to brew beer from available grains, and to create other alcoholic beverages would be valuable skills for any pirate crew. The knowledge of fermentation processes, the ability to construct and operate stills and brewing equipment, and the understanding of how to flavor and preserve alcoholic beverages would be essential for successful alcohol production. The ability to use alcohol for medicinal purposes, as well as for recreation and trade, would be crucial for pirate operations. The animal training and handling skills would be essential for managing the various animals that pirates might encounter or keep. From horses for land operations to monkeys for entertainment to parrots for communication, animals played important roles in pirate life. The ability to train and handle these animals effectively would be valuable skills. The understanding of animal behavior, the ability to provide proper care and nutrition for animals in maritime environments, and the knowledge of how to use animals for various purposes would be essential skills. The ability to train animals for specific tasks, such as carrying messages or providing entertainment, would be valuable for pirate operations. The explosive and gunpowder skills would be essential for the combat operations that were central to pirate success. The ability to mix gunpowder, to create improvised explosives, and to use gunpowder for various purposes would be crucial skills for any pirate crew. The knowledge of how to store gunpowder safely, how to create fuses and detonators, and how to use explosives for mining and demolition would be essential for successful pirate operations. The ability to create fireworks and other pyrotechnic devices for signaling and intimidation would be valuable skills. The mining and precious metal skills would be valuable for pirates who operated in areas with mineral resources. The ability to identify valuable ores, to extract metals from ore, and to refine precious metals would be valuable skills for increasing the profitability of pirate operations. The knowledge of how to pan for gold, how to identify valuable gemstones, and how to assess the quality and purity of precious metals would be essential for successful treasure hunting. The ability to use mining tools and techniques would be valuable for pirates who operated in areas with known mineral deposits. The cartography and map-making skills would be essential for navigation and planning pirate operations. The ability to create accurate maps, to record the locations of hazards and resources, and to use maps for navigation would be crucial skills for successful pirate operations. The knowledge of surveying techniques, the ability to use primitive measuring instruments, and the understanding of how to represent three-dimensional terrain on two-dimensional maps would be essential for successful map making. The ability to create charts showing water depths, currents, and other maritime hazards would be crucial for safe navigation. The espionage and intelligence gathering skills would be essential for successful pirate operations. The ability to gather information about enemy movements, to identify valuable targets, and to assess the defenses of potential prizes would be crucial for planning successful raids. The knowledge of how to maintain cover identities, how to cultivate sources of information, and how to assess the reliability of intelligence would be essential for successful espionage operations. The ability to communicate secretly with Confederates and to coordinate intelligence gathering activities would be valuable skills. The siege warfare and fortification skills would be valuable for pirates who operated from established bases or who needed to capture fortified positions. The ability to construct and improve fortifications, to conduct siege operations, and to defend against enemy attacks would be valuable skills for any pirate community. The knowledge of military engineering, the ability to construct and operate siege weapons, and the understanding of defensive strategies would be essential for successful siege operations. The ability to coordinate complex military operations involving multiple units and objectives would be valuable for large-scale pirate operations. The diplomacy and negotiation skills would be essential for dealing with the complex political situations that pirates often encountered. The ability to negotiate treaties and agreements, to manage relationships with colonial authorities, and to resolve conflicts peacefully when possible would be valuable skills for successful pirate operations. The knowledge of international law and customs, the ability to understand and navigate complex political situations, and the understanding of how to use diplomatic immunity and other legal protections would be essential for successful diplomatic operations. The ability to maintain relationships with multiple parties while pursuing conflicting interests would be valuable skills. The logistics and supply management skills would be essential for maintaining pirate operations over extended periods. The ability to plan and coordinate supply operations,
to manage inventory and resources, and to ensure adequate supplies for extended voyages would be crucial skills for successful pirate operations. The knowledge of how to calculate supply requirements, how to organize and manage supply chains, and how to improvise when supplies were unavailable would be essential for successful logistics operations. The ability to coordinate multiple supply sources and to manage complex distribution networks would be valuable skills. As we continue to explore these countless skills and abilities that would be required for pirate life, it becomes increasingly clear just how unprepared modern people would be for such an existence. Each skill we've discussed represents years of training and experience that would be essential for survival in the harsh world of 18th century piracy. The depth of knowledge required in each area would be extraordinary. It wouldn't be enough to have a superficial understanding of these skills. Your life would depend on your ability to execute them perfectly under extreme conditions. The margin for error would be minimal, and the consequences of failure would often be fatal. Consider the time investment required to master even a fraction of these skills. In our modern world, we typically specialize in one or two areas and rely on others for the rest. A pirate would need to be competent in dozens of different areas, each requiring years of practice and experience to master. The breadth of knowledge required would be overwhelming for anyone accustomed to our modern specialized world. The physical and mental demands of acquiring and maintaining these skills would be extraordinary. Many of these abilities would require constant practice to maintain proficiency, and the harsh conditions of pirate life would make such practice both difficult and dangerous. The ability to maintain multiple complex skill sets while also dealing with the daily challenges of survival would be a full-time occupation in itself. The integration of these skills would be equally challenging. It wouldn't be enough to know how to navigate, fight, and repair equipment separately. You'd need to be able to coordinate all these activities simultaneously while under extreme stress. The ability to switch rapidly between different types of tasks and maintain effectiveness in all areas would require exceptional mental flexibility and physical stamina. The teaching and learning environment aboard a pirate ship would be harsh and unforgiving. There would be no patient instructors, no gradual introduction to complex concepts, and no opportunity to learn from mistakes without severe consequences. You'd be expected to learn by observation and trial, with failure potentially resulting in injury or death. The motivation for acquiring these skills would be pure survival rather than personal interest or career advancement. In our modern world, we have the luxury of choosing what to learn based on our interests and goals. Pirates had to master whatever skills were necessary for survival, regardless of their personal preferences or natural abilities. The resource limitations would make skill acquisition even more challenging. There would be no textbooks, no training materials, and no specialized equipment for learning. You'd have to acquire complex skills using whatever materials were available aboard ship, often while those materials were needed for other essential purposes. The time pressure would be constant and relentless. Unlike modern education, where you can take time to master concepts thoroughly, pirate life would require you to acquire functional competence in essential skills as quickly as possible. The luxury of taking time to perfect your abilities would be unavailable when survival depended on immediate competence. The consequences of skill deficiency would be severe and immediate. In our modern world, lacking certain skills might limit your career options or personal satisfaction. In pirate life, skill deficiency could result in injury, death, or abandonment by your crew. The stakes would be much higher than anything most modern people have experienced. The peer pressure and social dynamics would make skill acquisition even more challenging. Pirates would have little patience for crew members who couldn't pull their weight, and the social consequences of incompetence would be severe. The ability to maintain your position in the crew hierarchy would depend on your demonstrated competence in essential skills. The environmental factors would make skill practice and acquisition more difficult. Rough seas, limited space, poor lighting, and constant interruptions would all interfere with your ability to learn and practice new skills. The controlled environments that we use for learning in our modern world would be completely unavailable. The safety considerations would make skill acquisition dangerous. Many of the skills essential for pirate life would be inherently dangerous to learn and practice. The ability to acquire these skills without seriously injuring yourself or others would require exceptional caution and natural ability. The competitive environment would make skill acquisition a matter of survival. Pirates would be competing with each other for position and resources, and superior skills would be essential for maintaining your place in the crew. The collaborative learning environment that we're accustomed to in our modern world would be largely absent. The practical application would be immediate and unforgiving. Unlike modern education, where you can practice in controlled environments before applying skills in real situations, pirate life would require you to use skills in life or death situations immediately upon learning them. The ability to perform under pressure would be essential from the very beginning. The interdependence of skills would make the learning process even more complex. Many of the skills essential for pirate life would be interconnected, requiring you to have competence in multiple areas before you could effectively use any of them. The ability to coordinate multiple skill sets would be essential for survival. The camouflage and deception skills would be crucial for avoiding detection and capture. Pirates needed to know how to disguise their ships, how to blend in with legitimate maritime traffic, and how to deceive potential victims about their intentions. The ability to maintain false identities and cover stories would be essential for operating in civilized ports. The endurance skills required for pirate life would be extraordinary. The physical demands of sailing, fighting, and surviving in harsh conditions would require stamina that few modern people possess. The ability to function effectively while exhausted, hungry, and in constant discomfort would be essential for survival. The decision-making skills under pressure would be crucial for survival. Pirates frequently faced life or death decisions with limited information and no time for careful consideration. The ability to make quick, effective decisions while under extreme stress would be essential for both individual survival and crew effectiveness. As we reach the end of our peaceful journey through the harsh realities of pirate life, let's reflect on what we've discovered. The practical skills required for survival aboard a pirate ship would be far beyond what most modern people could ever hope to master. We've become specialists in our modern world, each of us expert in narrow fields, but dependent on others for most of our daily needs. The pirates of the Golden Age were generalists by necessity, required to master dozens of skills that we would consider separate professions today. They were sailors, soldiers, carpenters, doctors, cooks, merchants, and survivors all rolled into one. The depth and breadth of knowledge required for their lifestyle would take decades to acquire, even with proper training and guidance. Our modern world has given us many advantages that we often take for granted. We have specialized tools for every task, detailed instructions for complex procedures, and experts available to help us when we encounter problems beyond our abilities. We have safety nets, backup systems, and technological aids that make our lives safer and more predictable than any pirate could have imagined. The romantic image of pirates as free-spirited adventurers pursuing treasure and excitement bears little resemblance to the harsh reality of their lives. They were, in many ways, prisoners of their own choices, trapped in a lifestyle that demanded constant vigilance, extraordinary skill, and the willingness to face death on a daily basis. The freedom they supposedly enjoyed came at the cost of comfort, security, and often life itself. As you settle into your comfortable bed tonight, surrounded by the conveniences and safety of modern life, take a moment to appreciate the complex civilization that makes your peaceful existence possible. The clean water flowing from your tap, the food preserved safely in your refrigerator, the medical care available when you need it, the legal protections that ensure your rights, These are treasures more valuable than any pirate's hoard. The skills that we've lost in our modern specialization, the ability to navigate by the stars, to predict weather from natural signs, to survive entirely on our own resources. These were not romantic adventures, but harsh necessities born of a world without the safety nets we now enjoy. We have traded these survival skills for something far more precious: the ability to live in peace, to pursue our individual interests, and to contribute to a society that values human life and dignity. The pirates of old would likely marvel at our modern world, not for its technology or convenience, but for its basic humanity. The idea that people could live without constant fear of violence, that differences could be resolved through discussion rather than combat, that the weak could be protected rather than exploited. These would seem like impossible dreams to those who lived by the sword. So as you drift off to sleep tonight, wherever you are in this wide world, let the gentle rhythm of progress and civilization carry your thoughts. You are part of a human story that has moved far beyond the brutal necessities of pirate life, into a world where kindness, cooperation, and mutual respect are not just possible but expected. Sleep well, dear listener, in the knowledge that you live in an age where the treasures of peace, safety, and human dignity are available to all. Thank you for joining me on this peaceful journey through the harsh realities of pirate life. May your dreams be filled with calm seas and safe harbors, and may you wake refreshed and grateful for the remarkable civilization that surrounds and protects you. Until we meet again, sleep well wherever you are in this beautiful world of ours.
Their way of life has revealed the poverty of modern existence, the isolation, the disconnection from nature, the loss of traditional skills and knowledge, the absence of true community. In gaining all the conveniences of modern life, humanity has lost something essential, something that these ancient people still possess in abundance. As you prepare for sleep, you step outside once more to look at the night sky. The stars are incredibly bright, unpolluted by artificial light, and the Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a river of stars. Somewhere in that vast expanse is the time you came from, but it seems less important now than the life you're building here. The night sky is a revelation, displaying more stars than you've ever seen before. Without the light pollution of modern cities, the celestial display is overwhelming in its beauty and complexity. You can see the individual stars that make up familiar constellations, trace the path of the Milky Way across the sky, and observe the subtle movements of planets against the stellar background. The ancient Egyptians were skilled astronomers, and you're beginning to understand why. The night sky is not just beautiful but practical, providing a calendar for agricultural activities, a compass for navigation, and a clock for measuring the passage of time. The stars are not distant points of light, but active participants in daily life, guides and guardians that help humanity navigate the complexities of existence. Standing under this magnificent sky, you feel a profound sense of connection to the cosmos and to the generations of human beings who have looked up at these same stars and wondered about their place in the universe. The questions that occupied the minds of ancient Egyptians, who are we? Why are we here? What is our purpose? Are the same questions that occupy human minds today. The night air is cool and gentle, carrying the scents of the river and the desert, the sounds of night birds and the gentle lapping of water against the shore. These are the sounds and smells that have accompanied human sleep for thousands of years, unchanged by the passage of time or the advance of civilization. They connect you to the fundamental rhythms of nature and to the eternal cycles that govern all life. This is your world now, and tomorrow will bring new adventures, new learning, new connections with the remarkable people who have welcomed you into their ancient community. You have work to do, skills to learn, friendships to deepen, and contributions to make. The future is full of possibility and promise. You are no longer a visitor to the past, you are a participant in it, a contributor to the great story of human civilization along the banks of the eternal Nile. Tomorrow you will wake up as a member of this community, with responsibilities and opportunities, with friends and neighbors who depend on you just as you depend on them. The realization is both humbling and empowering. You have been given a gift beyond measure, the opportunity to live as humans were meant to live, in harmony with nature and with each other. in a world where every person has value and every skill has purpose. It is a gift that you must prove worthy of, through your actions and your commitment to the community that has welcomed you. As you finally retire to your sleeping mat, surrounded by the gifts of friendship and the promise of belonging, you close your eyes with a sense of peace and gratitude that runs deeper than any emotion you've ever experienced. You have found your place in the world, your purpose in life, and your connection to the eternal human story that began long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. The gentle sounds of the night, the distant call of a night bird, the soft rustling of palm fronds in the breeze, the almost inaudible murmur of the river, lull you towards sleep with a sense of security and belonging that you've never known before. You are home, truly home, in a way that transcends time and space and connects you to the deepest truths of human existence. Tomorrow will bring new challenges and new opportunities, but tonight you rest in the knowledge that you have found your place in the world and your purpose in life. You are no longer a stranger, but a member of an ancient community, a participant in the great human story that unfolds along the banks of the eternal Nile. The next morning arrives with the same gentle beauty that has characterized your time in this ancient world. You wake naturally as the first light of dawn filters through your reed and palm leaf ceiling, and for a moment, you simply lie still, listening to the sounds of the Nile awakening. The soft calls of ibises wading in the shallows, the gentle splash of fish jumping in the river, the distant sound of someone singing as they begin their daily tasks. Rising from your comfortable reed bed, you move to the window and look out at a sight that never fails to take your breath away. The river stretches before you like a ribbon of molten gold, reflecting the colors of the sunrise. Palm trees sway gently in the morning breeze, their fronds rustling with a sound like whispered prayers. In the distance, the pyramids catch the early light, their limestone faces glowing with an inner fire that speaks of the divine ambition that created them. But today feels different from your first morning in this ancient world. Today you're not a confused stranger trying to understand where you are. Today you're a member of this community, with friends who care about you, skills you're learning, and a purpose that grows clearer with each passing day. As you dress in your linen garments and arrange the scarab amulet that Nebette gave you, you hear familiar footsteps approaching, but instead of the gentle knock you've come to expect, there's a different sound, the excited chatter of children and the warm laughter of adults. Opening your door, you find not just Nebette with her morning offerings, but several members of your new community, all bearing gifts and wearing expressions of anticipation. Seneb steps forward, her eyes bright with excitement, and speaks words that you're beginning to understand. Today is special, she's telling you. Today you're going on a journey that will show you wonders beyond your current imagination. Today you're going to see the great monuments of this civilization, not as a tourist from the future, but as a participant in the culture that created them. Ketty, dignified as always, approaches with what appears to be a traveling pack, a woven basket fitted with straps that will allow you to carry it on your back. Inside you can see provisions for the journey, bread, dried fish, dates, and a water skin made from leather. There's also a wide-brimmed hat, woven from palm fronds that will protect you from the sun. Amenemheb brings you a walking staff, carved from a single piece of hardwood, and polished to a smooth finish. The top is carved with simple but elegant hieroglyphs, and he explains through gestures that these are symbols of protection and safe travel. The staff feels perfect in your hand, balanced and strong, and you realize that it's been made specifically for you. The children, Kenwaset and Henupmehet, are practically bouncing with excitement. They've clearly been looking forward to this expedition, and their enthusiasm is infectious. They show you their own small packs, fitted with miniature versions of the supplies the adults carry, and their pride in being included in this adult adventure is touching. As the group prepares to depart, Tarhotep approaches with a final gift, a small clay vessel, beautifully decorated with images of the Nile and its wildlife. He explains that this is for you to collect water from the sacred sources you'll encounter on your journey, water that will connect you forever to the divine power of the river. The morning sun is still low in the sky when your small caravan sets out along the riverbank. The path is well worn, clearly used by countless travelers over the centuries, and it follows the natural contours of the land in a way that makes walking comfortable and pleasant. As you walk, Nebette begins to teach you the traveling songs that help pass the time on long journeys. The melodies are simple and repetitive, designed to match the rhythm of walking, and the words tell stories of the land you're passing through. Though you can't understand all the words, you can feel the meaning in the music, stories of the river's power, of the gods who bless the land, of the eternal cycle of flood and harvest that sustains all life. The landscape through which you're traveling is like nothing you've ever seen. The fertile strip along the river is intensely green and alive, with fields of grain, groves of date palms, and gardens where vegetables grow in neat rows. But just beyond this ribbon of life, the desert begins abruptly, its golden sands stretching to the horizon like a sea of light. This contrast between life and death, between the fertile and the barren, is one of the defining characteristics of ancient Egypt. The river is everything. Without it, this civilization could not exist. With it, miracles are possible. You're walking through one of those miracles, a land where human ingenuity and divine blessing have combined to create abundance in the midst of one of the world's harshest environments. As the morning progresses, you begin to encounter other travelers on the path. Some are local people like yourselves, making journeys to visit family or conduct business. Others are clearly from distant places, their clothing and appearance marking them as foreigners who have come to this land seeking trade, knowledge, or spiritual fulfillment. Each encounter is an opportunity for your companions to demonstrate the elaborate courtesies that govern interactions between strangers in this ancient world. Greetings are exchanged, news is shared, and offerings of food or water are made. You watch and learn, beginning to understand the complex social codes that allow people from different backgrounds to interact peacefully. One group of travelers particularly catches your attention. They're clearly wealthy, with fine linen clothing, elaborate jewelry, and a retinue of servants. But what fascinates you most is their cargo papyrus scrolls, ceramic vessels, and small statues that appear to be works of art. These are merchants, you realize, carrying the products of Egyptian civilization to distant lands and bringing back exotic goods in return. Keti speaks with the leader of this merchant group, and you can hear the formal cadences of business negotiation in their conversation. Though you can't understand the words, you can see the gestures that accompany discussions of quantity, quality, and price. This is commerce at its most basic level, human beings making agreements based on mutual benefit and trust. As the merchants continue on their way, Seneb explains what she can of their conversation. They were discussing the great construction projects that are underway, the demand for skilled workers, and the tribute that flows into Egypt from its vassal states. You're getting a glimpse of the economic foundations that support this magnificent civilization. The path now begins to climb slightly, following a low ridge that offers spectacular views of the river valley. From this vantage point you can see the true scope of ancient Egyptian civilization. The river is dotted with boats of every size and description, small fishing vessels, cargo barges, passenger boats, and elaborate ceremonial craft. The fields stretch as far as the eye can see, their green expanse broken by villages, temples, and the occasional palace complex. But it's what you see in the distance that truly takes your breath away. The pyramids are growing larger as you approach, but they're not the weathered, tourist-surrounded monuments you might have expected. These are living, active construction sites, surrounded by ramps, scaffolding, and the temporary housing of thousands of workers. Amenemheb notices your fascination and begins to explain what you're seeing. Through a combination of gestures, simple words and drawings in the sand, he helps you understand the incredible engineering feat you're witnessing. The pyramids are not being built by slaves, as you might have believed, but by skilled workers who are well-fed, well-housed, and proud of their contribution to these eternal monuments. The workers are organized into crews with names like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkar, and there's a spirit of friendly competition between the teams. They're building more than just tombs. They're creating symbols of divine power, stairways to the heavens, monuments that will preserve the pharaoh's essence for eternity. As you crest a small hill, the full majesty of the pyramid complex spreads before you. The Great Pyramid dominates the landscape, its sides rising at the perfect angle toward the sky. But around it you can see an entire city of the dead Mitrid of smaller pyramids, mastaba tombs, temples, and causeways that connect the various structures in a grand architectural symphony. The scale is overwhelming, But what strikes you most is the sense of purpose that permeates everything. This is not just construction, it's a religious act, a community effort, a celebration of human achievement guided by divine inspiration. Every stone that's lifted, every wall that's built, every decoration that's carved, is part of a great cosmic design that connects earth to heaven. Your group pauses at a small shrine that has been built for the workers, where they can make offerings and seek the God's blessing on their labor. The shrine is simple but beautiful, decorated with paintings that show the gods smiling upon the construction work. Incense burns constantly, and the air is filled with the scent of frankincense and myrrh. Nebette approaches the shrine and makes an offering of bread and beer, speaking a prayer that you sense is for the success of the great work and the safety of all who participate in it. The other members of your group follow suit, and when it's your turn, you place a small portion of your own provisions before the shrine, and offer a silent prayer of gratitude for the privilege of witnessing this incredible achievement. As you continue your approach to the pyramid complex, you begin to encounter the workers themselves. They're taking their midday break, resting in the shade of temporary shelters, sharing meals, and discussing the day's work. Their faces are weathered by sun and wind, their hands calloused by hard labor, but their expressions show pride and satisfaction rather than exhaustion or resentment. Ketty speaks with several of the workers, and you can hear the respect in their voices as they describe their work. One man shows you a piece of limestone that he's been carving, pointing out the precision of the cuts and the smoothness of the surface. Another explains the rope and pulley systems that allow massive stones to be lifted and positioned with incredible accuracy. These are skilled craftsmen, you realize, not forced laborers. They understand geometry, engineering, and architecture at a level that would be impressive in any era. They're participating in something they see as sacred, creating monuments that will outlast their own lives and connect their civilization to the gods. As the afternoon wears on, your group is invited to observe some of the construction work directly. You watch as teams of workers move blocks of stone up the ramps, using a combination of rollers, levers, and human muscle power. The coordination required is extraordinary, dozens of people working in perfect synchronization, guided by foremen who understand every aspect of the process. The precision of the work is breathtaking. Stones weighing several tons are positioned with a tolerance measured in fractions of inches. The mathematical calculations required to maintain the pyramid's perfect proportions are performed using tools and techniques that seem almost magical in their simplicity and effectiveness. But perhaps most impressive is the spirit of cooperation that guides everything. Despite the back-breaking nature of the work, there's laughter and singing, friendly competition between work crews, and a sense of shared purpose that transcends individual effort. These people are creating something eternal, and they know it. As the sun begins to descend toward the western horizon, your group prepares to make camp for the night. The workers have provided space for visitors in their temporary city, and you find yourself in a reed shelter that's simple but comfortable. The evening meal is shared with the construction crews, and you're amazed by the quality and variety of the food provided for the workers. There's fresh bread, roasted meat, vegetables, fruits, and plenty of beer. The workers are clearly well fed and well cared for, contradicting any notion that these monuments were built through forced labor. These are people who have chosen to dedicate their lives to this great project, and they're treated with the respect due to skilled craftsmen. As darkness falls, the workers gather for their evening entertainment. There's music and storytelling, games and friendly competitions. You watch a group of young men engaged in a wrestling match, their movements graceful and skilled. Others play board games that require strategy and skill, their competitive spirit evident in their intense concentration. The stories told around the evening fires are different from those you heard in your village. These are tales of construction achievements, of engineering solutions to impossible problems, of the divine inspiration that guides the work. You hear about the pharaoh's vision for his eternal resting place, about the architects who translated that vision into reality, about the master craftsmen who solve new problems every day. But underlying all these stories is a deeper narrative, the story of human beings working together to create something that transcends individual mortality.
The pyramids are more than tombs, they're symbols of what people can achieve when they unite their efforts toward a common goal guided by shared beliefs and mutual respect. As you lie in your simple shelter, listening to the sounds of the camp settling down for the night, you reflect on the incredible journey that has brought you to this moment. You've traveled not just through space but through time, not just to a different place but to a different way of understanding human purpose and achievement. The stars above you are the same stars that shine on your original time, but everything else has changed. You've learned to see the world through ancient eyes, to understand values and priorities that your modern mind might have dismissed as primitive or irrelevant. You've discovered that human nature itself is constant, but the ways that nature expresses itself can be profoundly different. The gentle sounds of the Nile continue through the night, the lap of water against the shore, the call of night birds, the whisper of wind through the reeds. These are the sounds that have accompanied human civilization in this place for thousands of years, and they will continue long after your own time has passed. In the morning, you know you'll continue your journey, perhaps visiting temples where priests maintain the ancient rituals, or markets where goods from across the known world are traded, or schools where young scribes learn the complex art of hieroglyphic writing. There are countless wonders yet to explore in this ancient world that has become your home. But for now, as sleep begins to claim you, you're content to rest in the knowledge that you've found something precious, a place where you belong, a community that has welcomed you, a purpose that gives meaning to your days. You've discovered that home is not just a place or a time, but a feeling of connection to something larger than yourself. The eternal river flows on through the night, carrying the dreams and aspirations of an entire civilization toward the sea. And you, a traveler from an unimaginable future, sleep peacefully under the same stars that have guided human civilization since the beginning of time, knowing that you are part of something eternal, something that transcends the boundaries of any single life or era. Your journey through ancient Egypt continues, but tonight, you rest in the embrace of a civilization that has taught you the true meaning of home, community, and the eternal human quest to create something beautiful and lasting in the face of time's inevitable passage. The gentle rhythm of the Nile lulls you to sleep, and in your dreams you see the completion of the Great Pyramid, its capstone gleaming in the sun, a symbol of human achievement that will endure long after the civilization that created it has passed into legend. But you also see the daily life that continues around it, the farmers in their fields, the craftsmen in their workshops, the children playing by the river, the endless cycle of human life that gives meaning to all monuments and achievements. You are home in ancient Egypt, and ancient Egypt lives on in you, a bridge between past and future, a reminder that the human spirit is truly eternal.